After you've been doctoring for a while, you develop these little unique heuristics, rules of thumb. Stuff you start to do automatically when you're evaluating a patient. And the evidence base for this thing comes not from the medical literature per se, but from the fact that you've seen this thing again and again. Like, for me, no blood culture result is scarier than group A strep. Strep pyogenes in the skin, throat, no problem. Blood, disaster. I've learned it the hard way too many times. I also pay somewhat outsized attention to this muscle, the interosseous muscle between the thumb and the forefinger, as a marker of frailty. I always notice this when I'm evaluating a patient, no matter what I'm evaluating them for, because in my practice at least, wasting in this muscle is a good sign of problems in the near future. And this isn't entirely evidence-free. Muscle strength, after all, is a good predictor of overall survival. But the data supporting muscle as a protective factor has always been complicated by some really critical confounding factors. People with more muscle also tend to get more exercise, which is also associated with longevity. So what is it? Is it the muscle or the activity? A really elegant new study gives us the answer, for women at least. I'm talking about this study from Michael Lamonte and colleagues at SUNY Buffalo, appearing in JAMA Network Open. It analyzes data from the Objective Physical Activity and Cardiovascular Health Study, a cohort study of 5,472 women aged 63 to 99. It's the objective in the title of the study that is the key here. Many studies of physical activity use self-report to quantify how much people are moving. And the fact is, people tend to overestimate that a bit when asked. This study used a hip-mounted multi-dimensional accelerometer that all participants wore for a week. The device could detect when they were standing, sitting, moving, getting moderate exercise, and so on. No more self-report. Muscle strength was assessed in two ways. For the upper body, the researchers used grip strength. I've talked about grip strength and longevity before. It's a surprisingly good predictor of long-term outcomes. For the lower body, they had the participants do chair stands. This is also a fairly standard physical function metric where you have the individual sit in the chair, arms crossed, and see how long it takes them to stand up and sit down 5 times. Faster is obviously better. Cardiorespiratory fitness was assessed with a timed walk test. So to recap, the study provides us great data on physical activity, a couple proxies of muscle strength, and a measure of cardiorespiratory fitness. Of course, they also measured a slew of other factors in these women: age, comorbidities, education, smoking status, alcohol intake, and so on. The truth is, it's already been shown that higher levels of physical activity are associated with decreased risks of death. It's already been shown that higher muscle strength is associated with decreased risk of death. Same with cardiorespiratory fitness measures. But prior to this study, it's been very hard to disentangle these factors. Maybe having more muscle is protective simply because it allows you to get more physical activity. Or maybe physical activity is protective because it improves your cardiorespiratory fitness. With good data, the authors could disentangle these factors. But first, a surprise. My intuition tells me that these 3 things, muscle strength, physical activity, cardiorespiratory fitness, should all be highly correlated. People with high scores on one should have high scores on the others. Not true, at least according to the data the authors present us. We're not provided with all the pairwise correlations, but it's intriguing to me that the correlations were actually quite weak. People with higher grip strength had better physical function in general, but the correlation coefficient is only 0.24. There's barely any correlation between grip strength and light physical activity, with a correlation coefficient of 0.09, which should clue us into the fact that these metrics are not measuring exactly the same thing, the same construct. And this is borne out when we look at mortality. Over the course of the study, 1,964 women, 36%, died. Now, as in prior studies, women who died had less moderate to vigorous physical activity based on that accelerometer. They had poorer cardiovascular fitness based on the timed walk test. They had lower grip strength and longer chair standing times. But to really dial in on the protective effect of muscle, the authors analyzed the benefits of grip strength and chair stand times after accounting for physical activity and cardiorespiratory fitness. In other words, given two women with similar levels of physical activity and cardiorespiratory fitness, would the one with stronger grip strength survive longer? And the answer was pretty clearly yes. Even accounting for those factors, women in the top quartile of grip strength were 35% less likely to die than those in the lower quartile. There was evidence of a dose-response effect here as well. The data for chair stands was similar. Women with the best times, those who could do 5 stands in less than 11.1 seconds, were 34% less likely to die than women with the worst times, greater than or equal to 16.7 seconds. Again, this is after accounting for physical activity and cardiorespiratory fitness, as well as all those other factors that were measured, like smoking. Muscle strength, it seems, is an independent survival factor. But why? Is muscle itself protective, or is muscle strength a proxy for some other thing, aside from physical activity and cardiorespiratory fitness? One possibility is inflammation. Chronic low-level inflammation has been associated with increased mortality and lower muscle mass. The authors assessed this by measuring C-reactive protein, but found even after accounting for inflammation level, the benefit of higher muscle strength persisted. Could this have been a classic case of reverse causation? Maybe some women were sick at baseline and thus had lower muscle mass and a higher risk of death. Probably not. In sensitivity analyses, they excluded women who died within the first 5 years of the study, and the results were broadly similar. This all makes a compelling case for a unique, beneficial effect of muscle on overall health status. Yes, having more muscle increases your ability to get activity, and that's great. Yes, having more muscle decreases inflammatory markers in the blood, and that's great, but it's more than that. Perhaps muscle protects against falls, but prior falls was one of those comorbidities accounted for in the statistical models. The authors posit that muscle is a resilience marker. Aging is characterized by often unpredictable illnesses, hospitalizations, injuries, and each of those carry with them the risk of rapid muscle loss, disability, and further worsening health status. Each of those things take a bit of tread off the tire, so to speak. Having stronger muscles gives older people a bit more to lose safely, frankly. It would seem prudent then that as we focus on cardiorespiratory fitness for older individuals, we also focus on building up that reserve, building up muscle mass and muscle quality to protect against the inevitable setbacks we all face as we age. To assess that, sure, we could use a small grip strength dynamometer, or maybe we could take a second to glance at that little interosseous muscle. That's my rule of thumb. For Medscape, I'm Perry Wilson.